doing hiding up the back, Red? Red and I have been planning to preach together for 10 years. 10 years, and we finally got around to it. It's so this is I was thinking this morning, this is just sweet honey for me. Stu and I and the boys, we get to do some really cool things. And for those of you who don't know me, I'm a nutritionist by trade, and so I've got a really busy practice in the city. But I get to do radio. I don't know if you hear Leon Biner. Do you get Leon Biner out here? He used to do 5AA Thursday mornings with him. And I've got a bit of a TV show. Now it's Pleb TV. I have not had my call from Dr. Phil yet. But I get to do TV and radio, and we get some travel, international. We're blessed in business. But, and I know be careful what you say, but I just love doing this. If I could just do this, my heart is full. And a few of you know me, but if you ask Stu or the boys, what's Kimberley's favourite thing to do? They would probably say anything Jesus. Anything Jesus, she's happy. So it's been great spending time with Red and Annette. And if you're in the house last night, no one else can speak when we're together, because Red and I are just going a million miles an hour. And everyone just goes dead because we're like, it's just such an exciting time to be in a place like this. And I was worried that I was going to be a bit full on for you guys, but after that communion, I'm thinking that it's all going to be great. So I need to I've got notes, and I'm going to work from those because I have so much to say that I don't want to miss anything. So bear with me referring to some of my notes. And I just want to share and start off that there's many of you who know me. My apologies to Brad and Catherine, who are going to hear me say the same thing around my testimony again for probably the gazillionth time for you guys. But there's lots of you who have maybe heard bits and pieces. But I just need to be really clear. I'm not a pastor, an ordained minister. I'm definitely not a teacher of the word. You will get that very quickly. I really suck at teaching. So I have spent a long time trying to work out what God wants me to do. And you know what I've worked out? I'm actually nobody. I am literally just a girl who has had a series of really crazy things happen to me. And I just feel absolutely compelled to just share what Jesus has done for me and then pray for people. And so that's what you're going to get today. I call it messy church because it's all bits and pieces. It's nothing structured. I just do what God wants me to do, and I don't ever try to be something that I'm not. So if you hate it all, there's at least a barbecue, okay? So you'll also understand that I don't take this lightly, being invited into someone's church, let alone Pastor Red's church. And I'm not someone that brings, you heard me say I'm not a teacher, I don't bring a message out of my filing cabinet. I don't do a lot of meetings because I've been in prayer for weeks just for this meeting. And I'm not saying that for bragging, I'm saying that so you know when you hear something that speaks to you today, it was for you. So in my preparation over the last couple of weeks, God's been speaking to me about two specific things that will happen today. And they are words of knowledge and prophetic ministry. Now, there are people who have not obviously been in church maybe ever, or you might be new to this and you might go, what is a word of knowledge and what is prophetic word? So I want to be really clear about what that is, so when you see it, you understand where it is in the Word of God. So I just want to read this to you. To be prophetic is to be God's mouthpiece and to speak from God's perspective. And you know, most of us basically have experienced prophetic word, which is foretelling. And that is, you know, someone says, this is going to happen to you in the future, or, you know, a projection for you. And they're great. However, where I tend to operate in is foretelling. Forthtelling. And that foretelling is speaking forth the heart of God for you right now in this season. And how will you know if it's a prophetic word? Because you will have already known it. You already know, and it's something between you and God, or someone's spoken to you before, and I don't know any of you, or very few of you, and you get that confirmation in your heart, or you say, thanks for sharing, I'm going to park it to one side, and then when it happens, you go, I knew this was going to happen. God had spoken to me about that. So at a later date. But this is the most exciting one. To be prophetic is to bring revelation where there is no revelation. Now in 2 Peter 1:19, it says, and we have something more sure, the prophetic word to which you will do well to pay attention. As to a lamp shining in a dark place until the day dawns and the morning star rises in your hearts, knowing this first of all, that no prophecy of Scripture comes from someone's own interpretation. For no prophecy was ever produced by the will of man, but men spoke as oracles from God. Now here's the clanger. A lamp shining in a dark place is the bringing of revelation to the heart that has not got that revelation. And a true prophetic word will confirm in your spirit, in your heart. Now I want to give you an example of this because I had a very specific experience about this. About a little over 10 years ago, I actually read, and Stu and myself were at an evangelist meeting called Pastor Curry Blake. Has anyone heard of Curry Blake? Well, this guy's a healing evangelist, and he rocked into Adelaide, and this guy claims 92% at the altar. Okay, so I'm thinking, why would you not want to miss that? You know, I want to go and sit in this kind of ministry. So I dragged a heap of my patients along and family, and it came time for the altar call at the end. And I went up because I have a thyroid issue and I've got some skin issues, and I went up and I'm in this big long queue of people waiting for prayer, and he's coming down the line and there's people crying and there's people going out on the floor, and I'm like, awesome Lord, I'm going to get healed, this is great. And he gets to me and he just holds my hands and he does this. You're beautiful and you're going to be okay. And moves on. And I'm just like, you're kidding me, right? That's it. I've waited all these hours and you give me you're beautiful and I'm going to be okay. I just got ripped off. I'm just like, well, I want that one, or I want that one. You know, what about my thyroid? What about my skin? Like, dude, come on. So everyone else is going down, so I just walk back to my chair and I'm literally 25 seats in. So I climb back in because everyone's out the front, sit down next to Stu, and he looks at me and says, are you okay? I must have had this look on my face. Well, I'm telling you, this thing blew from my stomach. I did not know if I was going to chuck. I didn't know if I was going to scream, if I was going to cry, but there was something coming up. And everyone started filling back in the seats. I started climbing over people. I started doing like snot fest everywhere. There was mucus coming out of everywhere. And I'm getting out in the foyer. Now this was a 3-day conference, and I'm out in the foyer, so people are like going out and having coffees and whatever, and I'm starting to walk. And I'm huffing and I'm puffing, and I do not know what is wrong with me. And I find they're starting to clear the foyer. Like people are starting to go, oh, we've got our mental health days here. Like people are getting up and going back into the meeting. And finally I find myself in the bathroom. And it's massive mirror, I'm all alone and I'm staring in the mirror. And I was 34 years old at this stage. And I'm looking and I get taken back, just in a memory, to when I was 4 years old. And I have vitiligo on my skin. It's not going to go anywhere. It's just there unless God heals it. It doesn't hurt, it's not contagious, which is probably good when we do an altar call, or else no one's going to come up. Anyway, I get taken to, I'm in the bath. My mum also had vitiligo, and she wasn't hurting me, but she was scrubbing my leg where my first spot of vitiligo appeared. And you know, I got taken just in this memory. In that moment, the devil came into my heart and into my mind, and I took on this wound that I wasn't beautiful, and I was scarred, and I wasn't perfect. And I had spent 30 years of my life living my life with a lie. I had chosen relationships, I had chosen friendships, I had operated for 30 years with a wound that I was scarred and I was not beautiful. See, I didn't know that I didn't know until I knew. Does that make sense? I'm going to say that again. I didn't know that I didn't know. Thanks, Brad. Is that better? Is that better now? Yeah, okay. I didn't know that I didn't know until I knew. So until he spoke that word of knowledge and that word, you are beautiful and you're going to be okay. You know, where it says, a lamp shining in a dark place, a word that's right in a dark place. is bringing revelation to the heart that had never had that revelation. I already knew Jesus, I already had tons of ministry, but I just didn't know that that was a wound still there. So that's where we're going today. We're going into that dark place with words, and that's just where God's got me right now. The second thing is words of knowledge. Now, a word of knowledge is a conviction or an impression or a knowing or a vision or a picture that God will just show me. And it's a supernatural insight. You know, I haven't been on your Facebook pages, I haven't been on your Instagrams. It's just a fact that you know God is speaking to you today, and it's not for anyone else, it's just for you. And I need to be really clear, I do as much as I possibly can to honour Jesus. I don't say a word unless I really believe it's from him. I have checked and rechecked and prayed and considered all the words that he's given me. I'm also accountable to my husband, I'm accountable to your pastor, to any elders that you have here, Pastor Cheryl. I debrief after your meetings. I go back to my pastors in the city and my intercessory prayer team and accountable for the words that I deliver. And I just don't think I can put anything else in place to just get you focused on Jesus and not me. So, my prayer is today that people leave different, that you just leave different, that something shifts. Some of you, it might be one of those just little seeds that needs to go. Some of you, it might be life-changing today. It's not up to me, the rest is up to God. So in order to get to some of those words of knowledge and prophetic word, I just want to put some context around how I came to be doing this, because I guess the next... Is that all right? Yeah. You know, a lot of people say, well, how did you come to actually just suddenly start speaking these words? And I just want to give you a little bit about my testimony, because it's a bit of a crazy one. I've grown up a Christian my whole life. I've been an Anglican, and I wouldn't say that I knew God and I knew who Jesus was, but I was sort of an Easter and Christmas girl. Went to a private school that was the Church of England, so I had some good foundation there. Got married young, had 2 beautiful boys, so life was pretty great. Until in 2005, my husband announced that he was leaving. And it was a split-second decision, and I'm not going to go into details because they don't serve anything, but he got up and left. And with respect to anyone who has been through a death of a spouse, and I can't even imagine what that's like, for me it was like a death, because he was there 1 minute and literally then gone 3 minutes later. And I knew I just had to get to church. And I rang a friend and said, open the church. And remember, I was sort of an Easter and Christmas person, but there was this pull for me to just got to this little uniting church, and a friend sat up the back, and I sat up at the altar. I just cried for 3 hours. And I heard God say to me, shut your mouth and I'll get you through. And what that did is, I didn't do the gossip, I didn't do the anger with anyone but God. I went through the following that year, a year of hell. If you put a thesaurus up here, I reckon I went through every emotion that's in a thesaurus. I went through anger and betrayal and resentment. Can you imagine what my self-worth was like? I think you're stupid no matter who's to blame if you don't do self-reflection on why something falls apart. At any level, you've got to take some responsibility. And that year for me, I actually remember on day 3 after this happened that I actually felt the moment when a chamber in my heart actually died. You hear of older couples who've been married 60 years and one dies and then the other one dies 2 or 3 days later, and they die of a broken heart. I actually know the date and time when I felt a chamber of my heart just die out of sheer betrayal and anger and grief and all those words. So I spent a year basically on the floor. I was emotionally unavailable to my children. I could not wait till I got them in bed at night, because I was instantly a single mum with a 2-year-old and a 4-year-old. I would get them into bed and I would fall apart. And I did life like that for 12 months. And after 12 months, I was really in a bad way, health-wise, you can imagine. I really beat myself up. And I got the chance to go to Hayman Island on a business trip. Well, it was a trip for 2, and there wasn't 2, right? There was only 1. So I took my sister with me, and I was just so exhausted that I just sat by the pool for 4 days and watched the pool boy clean the pool. That's all I did. By the 5th day, my sister lost it at me and just says, we're on a 5-star resort. Can we just go and do something, like get a kayak or go snorkeling or just do something? So we went snorkeling. We went on a dive boat and went out snorkeling. Well, what I didn't know at the time was because it was such a really busy day and very hot, this dive shop where all the boats were coming and going weren't disinfecting the snorkeling equipment. And so when I got on a dive boat to go out to the reef, it was just a direct turnaround, and I got someone else's snorkeling equipment that hadn't been white kinged. Does that make sense? It's cleaned and dispatched again. So we flew home the next day, and on the flight home I started feeling really unwell, and I just felt really hot, and by the time I landed it was 11 o'clock at night, and by that stage I was living in my parents' garage. In the separation, divorce, we'd sold our house, I'd moved the children into mum and dad's house, and I was living in the garage. So, you know, I was in a pretty bad place, but I got home and said to Mum, I'm not feeling well. I know you just looked after the boys for 3 or 5 days, but can you just like get them up? And I'm just feeling really bad. Well, for 3 days, I was so insanely sick. I had a raging temperature, and this cough that was horrendous. And on day 3, my mum took me to the doctor, and the doctor stepped back from me, backed away from me. Now, has anyone ever had a doctor back away from them? That is not a good feeling. And he said to me, you have the flu, you need to go home, you're highly contagious. So I went home for 2 more days. I did not get out of bed at all. And I was fitting, I was passing out. Every time I'd sit up, I would just pass out again. What did my mum do? As what mums do. She sat on my bed, was 31, and she's got the flannel, and she didn't leave my side. Well, by day 5, I was 40 degrees. Now, if I've got any nurses or medical people here, that's not good. I remember hearing in the kitchen a friend come, and he was pleading with my mum, take her to hospital. And by that stage, I was just in my underwear and had a sheet over me, and I was doing this. It was terrible. So Mum took me to the QEH, and as I walked in, they were tapping my arms, and they were trying to sort of basically arouse me, and it was not good. And I passed out. They'd done a lung x-ray, and they were making me stand up to do it. And when I woke up, I had this team around me, and they were saying, what drugs have you been doing? And how come you're so sick? And I'm like, I just come back from this island. Well, you know, they took on this x-ray, and it showed that all 4 chambers of my lungs were pure white and collapsed. Now, on an x-ray, they're meant to be black. And so all 4 chambers, it was very unusual, and they thought I'd been doing drugs, or they were like, we see this sometimes with homeless people, but we don't know what is wrong with you. But because I'd come off a tropical island, they started thinking you might have Legionella, you might have this bat virus that, you know, it was terrible. So they did not know what was wrong with me, but they knew that there was something wrong with my lungs. So they put me in palliative care ward, bed 2B at QEH, and I was in a share room with a woman dying with pancreatic cancer who was deaf. Because I was coughing so much, they had to put me in a roomie who couldn't hear me, because I would have driven someone else batty, and I was so sick. So they didn't yet know what was wrong, but they started an antibiotic IV line. So that was the 5th of August 2006. On the 6th of August, I went downhill fast. And so it was 11 o'clock at night, and I knew that I was in trouble. And then I called the nurses in, and as you do, I just knew there was when you feel yourself like you're going to die, there is another level of sickness, there's another realm that you go into. And I called them in, and they came in with their torches, and they said, what's up, lovey? And I said, I'm not travelling very well. And they said, we know, but we don't know what's wrong with you yet. You've got fluid and IV. Just call us if you need us. I'm like, you think? I just did. I just called you because I say this is not good. I knew I was dying. And they pulled the curtain to the wall, and they left. They put the nurse call button in my left hand, and as they left, a few minutes later, I started spinning. Now, has anyone ever been to the Royal Show and got on the Gravitron? The gravitrons where you stand in it, you start spinning and then you get off and vomit your milkshake and hot dog up. Okay, well that's what it was like. I started spinning and spinning and spinning, and I started spinning so much that I came out of my body and I sat up on the bed head. And I remember just sitting there looking down at my body. I just had like a respirator thing on. I just basically had a sheet over me. I'm in palliative care ward. I don't know where my children are. I've lost the man that I had truly loved. I was living in my parents' garage, and there was a state of nothing. There wasn't a light, there wasn't a tunnel, there was nothing. I remember just looking down on my body going, at the end of your life, there was just a state of nothing. All the things of life were gone, and it was just me. And as I lifted off the bed head, Jesus came and stood right next to me. Right next to me. He was here. Remember, I'm above the bed head, not sitting on the bed head. He had brown hair down to his shoulders. He had a velvety, burgundy coloured gown that was 15 layers deep. Now, I don't know why I know it was 15 layers, but in this realm, there was a knowing without counting. It was unbelievable. He had 2 gold cords, like you'd tie almost a curtain down to the floor. Out from his head was a yellow, canary yellow gold going out 1 metre. And then from that 1 metre was a white gold that went right out and filled the room. And it was blinding, but you were drawn to look at it. But you'd look at it and then just have to look away to clear your eyes a bit to look back. He did not say anything, but he just put his hand out. And I remember sitting up there and I just swiped, because I still feel like I'm spinning, swiped to grab it. And on the 3rd time, I caught his hand. He looked at me and said, "Now I know you trust me." And I got slammed, I'm talking car accident slammed, back onto the bed head, and then car accident slammed back down into my body. Now, you know, I'm an Anglican, right? This kind of stuff does not happen to Anglicans. It happens to, you know, those weird happy clapper people, you know. And I'm sitting there, I know, right? And here I am. And I'm sitting there freaking out. I have no context for what just happened to me. I did not say anything for about 3 hours. Now, I was still gravely ill. I was still 40 degrees. I can still get hold of my medical records. In actual fact, I wasn't healed at all. I was just so sick, but I was freaking out. This nurse came in after a few hours to change my drip, and I hear this voice out of nowhere say, tell her mother's going to be okay. I'm looking around thinking, oh great, they're going to come take me to psych ward now. This is just great. And so this went on for 3 weeks, that I kept taught. Every time this one nurse would walk in, I'd hear this voice that would say, tell her mother's going to be okay. So I was such a chicken. And after 3 weeks, I started a really basic conversation. How's shift work for you? Bet you don't get to see your family very often, like I'm working toward the mother, okay? And so every drip change, every 3 hours, I'm like, gee, it must be hard, you know, working shift work. You don't get to see your parents very often. And then I thought, this voice just would not shut up. So in the end, I just said to her, oh, by the way, your mother's going to be okay. She bursts into tears, she gets mad at me. Why would you say that? My mother's got cancer, and that's just a horrible thing, it's none of your business, and goes out of the room. And I'm like, well, that went well. That's just awesome, terrific. So what it did for me was, I'm like, I have no idea what's going on. So I decided I needed a priest, okay? I thought, right, I'm a good old Anglican girl, I need a priest. So, you know, when you're in hospital, you get pastoral visits. Someone ticked the box on my form when I got admitted. So in walks the Greek Orthodox pastor. And this is actually going to sound like a joke, right? There was a United pastor, there was a Greek Orthodox pastor. But this Greek Orthodox minister walks in. I thought, right, you're it. So, can I help you, love? I said, absolutely. I've seen Jesus. Well, he backs away from me and doesn't come back. And I'm thinking, okay, that one's done. So the next thing is Brother Noel, who's a uniting minister, and I actually knew Brother Noel, and came in and he said, Lassie, that's okay, we need to do communion. So we went away and got communion, and I'm trying to make sense of what just happened to me. So we do communion and he leaves. I'm thinking, what the flip did we do communion for? That has not solved any of my questions. A few days later, in walks a uniting women's pastor, and she sits down. I'm thinking, oh well, here we go again. this thing happened to me. I need someone to explain what is going on. She said, love, you're in palliative care ward. This happens all the time. People tell me this all the time, except most people don't get to tell us. You know, in palliative care, most people have an experience and go home. You're just one of the lucky ones that gets to come back and share it with me. So she explained to me where in the Word all of these things that were starting to happen to me were. But she came every day for 5.5 weeks. Because what happened was, because I saw Jesus and saw that he is real and he is alive, is in that moment when I saw him, and I'm really bold about this, but it wasn't Buddha and it wasn't Muhammad, okay? It was Jesus Christ, and I am ashamed to say I was a Christian, and in my deepest, worst moment, I didn't even think to call out to him. It didn't even rate in my top 10. How sad is that? So in my deepest moment, he knew what I needed more than what I needed. It was not my time, but he came, and I'm a nobody. I never did anything special. I didn't earn it. Okay, but he came, and I got a second chance. So by seeing him and knowing he's real, he became the most real thing to me. I knew him as the person. I knew him in the Bible. I knew him from what I'd been taught at school, but he became real. And he just literally cut these chains off. So was I healed? No. I was so distraught. It was like all the emotion of the last 12 months actually finally started coming out. So when this pastor comes, she'd come every day and she'd plonk 2 coffees down and she'd say to me, what are we crying about today, chickie? And I'd be like, my husband left me and this, and then we'd go through that. And she's like, I know, we need to move on from this. You can't keep bringing up the same stuff, we need to move. So by the time 5.5 weeks came, it turned out I had mycoplasma pneumonia from contaminated snorkeling equipment. There was 8 of us that got infected from the dive boat. But because I was so full, my soul was sick, because I was so full of anger and resentment and all those fancy words, my immune system couldn't cope. Everyone else on the dive boat got a bit of asthma or bronchitis, needed a course of antibiotics. But me, 5.5 weeks, palliative care ward, 88 IV drips of antibiotic to kill this bug. It was a super bug. So after 5.5 weeks, I walk out the door. As I walk out, I don't know why, I just put my hands up and said, thank you, Lord, for this experience. And he says straight back to me, the outside is not ready for you yet, you need to stay inside. And I'm like, I ain't eating another meal in the QEH, let me tell you. It's terrible food, sorry. But I just couldn't do another meal. I actually had my mother smuggling in what in a box because I just couldn't do, I'd done the menu 5 times over, right? So I'm like, I am out of here. So I'm home for 7 days. Now in the meantime, my mother and sister contracted the mycoplasma from me, but once again, they just got a bit of asthma, antibiotics, saw their GP. On day 7, I ran out of my antibiotics, and within 3 hours, I'm back at 40-degree temperature. And I think, I cannot tell my parents. They have sat with me in hospital at my bedside for 5.5 weeks. If I go and tell them we have to go back there, they're going to freak. So I creep in the kitchen and I'm on the phone to the hospital telling them I'm back at 40 degrees. What am I going to do? And as I do that, the kitchen door opens and my dad collapses on the kitchen floor. He's contracted it really badly. And so I call an ambulance, and as the ambulance comes, all 4 of us are on the kitchen floor, all in our jammies, and the ambos say, we'll take you and we'll take you. You 2 look the worst. And as I go back in, my dad was on a stretcher, I walked in the door. As I walked in, the Lord said to me, I told you you were not ready to leave the hospital yet. Do you know where I ended up? Palliative care ward 2B. Bed 2B was empty. My bed was empty again. Now, of a 600-bed hospital, how is that even possible? The same nurse said, oh, Chicky, you're back again. There's Jill with the cappuccinos. I'm in for another couple of weeks, back on the same, like my records are just there. Here I am. My dad only did 7 days in hospital. I said he was a bit weak in that. I did way more than that. So, the outside world is ready now, but I'm ready. I've grown. You know, that's 2006. And what it's done for me is set me on a path of hearing his voice, praying like crazy, and just speaking what he says to me, speaking the visions I see or the dreams. And, as I said, I'm nothing special. Today, I believe, is just going to be that hospital moment for people. I just pray that you don't have to reach a point like me where you end up in a hospital before you start actually hearing from him or even making that step towards him. So, what I'm going to do is I'm going to read out the words that God has been talking to me for the last couple of weeks. And what is going to happen? I don't know. You may feel a stirring. You may think that's me. You may want to cry. You may want to run out the back door. You might want to go to the barbecue straight away. I don't know. But if you hear a word and you think it's you, don't sit there. When I'm finished, what I'm going to do is I'm going to get Andrea back up to just have some music going, not because we need atmosphere, okay? We don't need music to go to